So, human beings, we're what, about 2 meters tall? We have certain sorts of eyes and ears and taste and smell and touch. And that constitutes what feels real to us. If we were small, like a microbe, or big, like a dinosaur, if we had the smell of a wolf, or the ears of a bat, or the sight of an owl, we would see the world quite differently. A different reality. It's perhaps one of the wonders of the world that the human brain's developed so that we can begin to understand the world around us and reach out beyond our senses. I think science, you could say, has revealed the world to us. So we can look at the very small through a microscope and see the microbes, or the animalcules as they were first called. We can look through a telescope at the sky and see the vast expanse of stars and look back in time. And if we're like Charles Lyell and those first geologists, we can wander around the mountains and wonder at the rocks as the layers of rocks seem to fold over one another. Or when we find marine fossils on the top of a mountain, and those geologists wondered, how did that happen? And began to see that the Earth wasn't just a few thousand years old, as most people had thought. It was immensely old. And these were signs of changes that had happened over a huge expanse of time. Mountains folding, the Earth moving. Now we know, for example, that the Earth moves the continents move on great plates. And where they collide, they make mountains like the Himalayas and the Alps. Sometimes one goes underneath the other, and a chain, and the one that goes beneath meets with the magma of the Earth, and a chain of volcanoes arises. Amazing stuff. We know that volcanoes through Earth history have had the most dramatic effects we could imagine, as they spew out dust which clouds the sun and cools the Earth, and carbon dioxide which heats the Earth up, and sulfurous gases which can acidify the oceans. And so we've come to understand there have been 5 great extinctions in the history of the Earth, when the climate has changed so dramatically that up to 80% or more of life on Earth has been lost. Sometimes, well, once at least, there was an asteroid that fell, and that contributed to the loss of the dinosaurs and allowed a set of mammals to come through, of which one was us. So we learn that there were many creatures that lived in the past that don't live now. In fact, most of the creatures that have lived on Earth don't live today. We've learnt with Darwin that about natural selection, how one species competes with another and they gradually change. And also of these enormous changes through the great extinctions. What a revelation, really. So science has revealed an extraordinary history, our history, to us, right from the very first microbes that were formed 3,500 million years ago, which began the process of producing oxygen that would create the atmosphere that allows us to breathe. Enormous flows of energy intimate connections between living and non-living things. A great history in which we are caught up in. What a world we inhabit. And what are the scientists who revealed all this to us? What do we make of them? People of great devotion to their work, doing detailed, serious observation, sometimes getting so involved in that detail that they lose connection with the bigger picture. Sometimes it can feel like mining at a coalface, going down, seeing something that nobody else has ever seen, and then coming back up and trying to tell people about it. But perhaps the key to good science is not losing touch with the big picture. Let me introduce you to Alexander Humboldt. Very few of us have heard of him in the West, but he was a remarkable man. He journeyed around South America, carrying with him about every portable instrument there was in his day, with a whole team of people. He would climb up and down the mountains, making detailed observations, cataloguing everything that he could. And he would produce pictures, like this picture of the Chimborazo mountain in South America, and labelled on it with all the plants and trees and everything that he'd found, and at different heights up the mountain. And he'd compare that with other mountains and what was growing, and he began to realise that certain plants and trees grew in particular climates and locations at particular heights. And he began to see that it was all one. And that there were ecosystems where one thing could grow here and something else could feed off that, etc. He was the first person to think in terms, perhaps, of ecosystems, and certainly the first really to conceive of nature as one. When people first saw this picture called Naturgemälde, which means just painting of nature, some of them used opera glasses in order to be able to read it because it had so much detail on it. But Humboldt was an extraordinary enthusiast for all things natural and for understanding the whole thing as one big picture. He didn't just see ecosystems, he also saw that humans were part of it all too. And he told the stories of how the Spanish colonists had themselves changed the natural world in South America with their activities. And he wrote it all down, furiously wrote it all down. Wrote it all down till at the grand old age of 89, he put his pen down on his great work, which he called Cosmos. What a guy. For Humboldt, science was not a set of separate disciplines like biology and chemistry and physics. For him, it was all one. And it was related to this earth in which we live. And that, I believe, is the secret of good science. It is to keep in mind the big picture. I wonder sometimes what Humboldt would have made of our present situation as we are burning fossil fuels and changing the climate and having terrible effects on biodiversity. I think he would have mourned with us and perhaps pleaded with us that a good relationship with the natural world is the one thing that can unite human beings at this time, that can overcome our natural tendency to conflict and help us find a better path. Science has not been taught in the West like Humboldt taught it. Unfortunately, we've done all the detail and we've learnt all the stuff, but we've not felt it. We've not felt our relationship with the world. And that means that we can behave very destructively and not realize what we are doing. I wonder how it would be if we taught science today in a way that was truly connected to the earth. I dream of the idea of earth schools where young people learn all the normal academic disciplines about how to learn, but their learning is connected to not just the human world in which we live, but the earth and the history of the earth and our place in it. That all the subjects are making connections with the earth schools. I wonder, teachers, would you like that? It could happen, of course, with free schools and things in the UK. What's not to like about that? So, to summarise, science has revealed the world to us. But we need to do science in a way that we feel the connections that we have with the earth. The earth is surely our home. And that is perhaps the greatest part of that revelation. And we need to feel that. In the next episode, I'll take on this idea about how we feel our relationship with the earth. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you'd like to explore some more about these things, I recommend Robert Macfarlane's book, Mountains of the Mind, who tells the story of how we first began to understand what mountains were made of. I recommend Tom Halliday's book, Other Lands, which takes us deep into Earth history and sketches out some of the dramatic situations that occurred there. And Andrea Wolf and Laura Walls have both written serious and good biographies of Alexander Humboldt. So there it is. Enjoy those. See you soon.